This podcast is brought to you by Rebecca Cassells of the Rising Dawn series. Do you like violence? Do you like smut? Are you tired of the stereotypical novels of werewolf romance out there and want something a little bit different? Then pick up Sparked Revolution, Book 1 in the Rising Dawn series by Rebecca Cassells. Available on Amazon, in Kindle and paperback. You too can become a sponsor of Stories, the True and the Fictional by heading on over to buymeacoffee.com/STTATF or follow the link in the show notes. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Stories, the True and the Fictional. Unfortunately, Ryan is not with us today. He's having a lot of pain issues from, as all our followers will know, he had his leg amputated last year and he's still dealing with a lot of that stuff. And I really wanted him here because our guest, Ella Parlor, who I'll bring in a second, she's got a really cool story, and I reckon it would have motivated him a lot and inspired him. So Ryan will be here in spirit. I will judge Ella harshly on the icebreakers, especially the sitcom one, on behalf of Ryan. But let's just jump right in. Ella Parlor, thank you so much for coming on. How are you?
I am doing really well. It is Friday evening over here, and I'm excited to close out my week with you. So thank you so very much for having me.
Awesome. Very much looking forward to it. Now, we have a wide range of audience. We have comic book fans. We have fantasy authors. We did a lot of the, the autobiography stuff, so which is kind of cool to get you on for that. But for those that might not know, who is Ella Parlor?
I am a marketing executive. I own my own marketing firm, but my background is I've consulted and marketed for Fortune 500 brands from all over the world. I've done some business in Australia as well. I'm located right now in Dallas, Texas, within the United States, but I'm from Southern California, so Orange County. Yep. I think one of the things that surprised me when I went to Sydney was I would say, oh, I'm from the US, and people are like, where? And I'm like, California? And they're like, where? And I'm like, Orange County? Where? I'm like, Huntington Beach? And they're like, oh, I know Huntington Beach. I'm like, how? How do people know the specific city? So for that sake, I will say I'm from Huntington Beach, California, but currently living in Texas, which is a different vibe style. Yeah. And, but I really, really love it. But I've been able to work with global brands. My background is mostly in beverages. So I started off my career working for a very little known company called Red Bull. And back when I was there 16 plus years ago, it was not what it is today. So it's really exciting to have been a part of a lot of the innovations and marketing that they created. And then from there, I went over into working for various alcohol brands right when I turned 21. So at the age of 21, I was executing campaigns for really, really big whiskey, tequila, vodka brands. I've worked for the top 3 alcohol conglomerates in the world. And so it's been really exciting. But what I'm doing these days is helping smaller businesses that want to grow or perhaps sell and help them strategize their exit plans. So that's what I'm doing these days.
Awesome. That's quite the journey it sounds like you've been on. Really look forward to diving into that. But let's do the icebreakers. We always do icebreakers because I feel like it's a good way to get to know you as a person. And we do encourage, funny answers. You don't have to get super political, especially with the first one. Ryan always says with the first one, you can have your political answer and you can have your about you. What would you, your personal answer. So Kicking it off, if you could get rid of one thing in the world, what would it be?
So my knee-jerk reaction was herpes, but I feel like that's a very weird answer. So I don't know why. That's like the first thing that came to my mind. So you can make assumptions about my history if you want. I don't care. I actually think we need to destigmatize herpes so it stops spreading. But no, I would say what I would probably get rid of, and it's because I have this problem and people don't always like it, but I think it's just we know the truth shall set you free. I believe dishonesty. Dishonesty with ourselves is the worst, but dishonesty with others. I really wish that I could eradicate the avoidance of the truth. And, we have this belief sometimes, especially as women, we're like, oh, if we compliment someone and we don't mean it, we're doing them a favor. And I'm of the belief, this is from Brene Brown, any truth is going to be kind, even if it's not nice and easy. It's always an act of kindness. And any untruth, telling someone they look good when you know damn well they look not great, that's unkind. It's unkind to be untruthful, and it's unkind. And I think a lot of times we're just dishonest with ourselves because we're so out of touch with our feelings, reality, situations. We're dissonant, we're disassociated, we're drunk, whatever it is. I think we struggle with our own internal truths, let alone big, cosmic truths. So I wish that we could just eliminate that. And I think there would be discomfort, but a lot more peace. Is that a little too deep?
No, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Like 5 years ago, I just developed this absolute love of the truth, like to the point, like if you get uncomfortable, it's good because you're changing, you're growing sort of thing. And I think somewhere along the line, I think Hollywood kind of did it with their definition of love. And, sometimes love is seeking what's best for the other person instead of, just making them smile all the time, make you feel good, like that sort of thing. So
yeah, I absolutely agree.
Totally on board. All right. Now you've had a pretty crazy life already, but what's something on your bucket list?
Oh God, I actually have a literal list. Let me pull out my phone. I have a literal list, but I will say one of the top things on my bucket list, which I actually was able to do, was scuba diving the Great Barrier Reef. I'm a licensed scuba diver. And so when I got my license 10 years ago, that was top of my list. So the fact that I've been able to do that, that's always my go-to. That's a big deal over here. I don't know if that's a big deal for you guys, but over here it's like, yeah, I did that. I went to the Great Barrier Reef and I scuba dived it. But my bucket list is full of random stuff. Oh, I've always wanted to do a stuntman class. Like I grew up fighting. So this is where my nerd comes out because I was a girl fighter in the 90s. And let me tell you, that was not the cool thing to be. I get that MMA is kind of cute for women nowadays, but it was not in the 90s. I was the only female, obsessed with Bruce Lee. Like he was Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. That's all. And Steven Seagal. Those were like my three heroes, right? Other girls are like watching Powder Puff Girls. And I tried to watch one episode and I was like, this is not like, get me out of here. Like I cannot like, give me the Kung Fu. And so, I've always wanted to do a stuntman class. Zoe Bell is one of my heroes. And so I think it would be so cool. If I ever got, like, I love that Quentin Tarantino did a stunt woman movie. Cause I'm like, yes, give more stunt women. I have a friend who's a stunt woman and her social media just lights me up. She does really weird stuff. She does a lot of like fighting zombie type, like breaking necks kind of things. And it's creepy, but it's so cool. Like everything's so choreographed. So it's like a dance and it sucks that as women, we have to do it in high heels, right? Like every stunt we have to be in high heels, but I would love to do a stuntman class. That's like on my list. I'm also afraid of death. So this is like where I go back and forth. Like, would I ever even survive a class if I could do it?
Yeah. Oh, they'd probably bubble wrap you up a little bit and
yeah. Well, and if I have a friend, at least I'm like, maybe she could teach me a thing or two, but that would just be so fun.
Yeah. I always wondered about Jurassic World and Claire, the character Claire, Bryce Dallas Howard, Bryce, I think her name is, and she's running around the whole movie in heels. It's just like,
it's torture. I mean, I don't want to be that woman that's saying we have it so much harder, but stuff like that, I'm like, it's just, I gave up on heels. I used to wear heels a lot. I gave up on them like 5 years ago, and my feet said we are never going back. Like I could do maybe a 1 inch. I used to do like the 6 inch heels and all that. I don't know how, but I'm a Nike girl these days. Like that's my business casual is Nikes. If you're expecting me to show up to a meeting in heels, good luck.
Yeah. I just to me, just from a guy's perspective, it looks like you're being forced to walk on your tiptoes. Like, is that the kind of feel?
That's literally what you're doing. You should
Yeah.
try them sometime. I mean, I will say, like I have size 11 feet, which I'm a 9.5 in guys, which is a pretty solid size foot for a woman. And I'm not that tall, which makes no sense, but I'm sturdy. Good luck pushing me down with these feet.
Yeah.
And so, like, they don't make a lot of, like, when they're making a line of shoes, they don't make them in my size. Like, size 11, they'll go up to 10, and then they'll maybe make one 11 per store. And so I have to shop at discount stores by size, whatever. Anyway, I'm hoping that with the transgender movement, whatever your opinions are on it, I don't care. I'm just hoping that we start making more bigger high heels for women with big feet. That's all I'm hoping. I need to reap some rewards here because now the competition's stiff. Because it used to be I'm fighting with like a few other women got big feet. Now I'm fighting against the men that have my size, or the women who are transitioning. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So please make more bigger high heels. For your audience members, anyone who's on the creative board of one of those women's shoe lines, that's like my hope. I'm like, yes, I support equal rights to access to footwear.
Yeah. All feet are created equal. Is that what we're saying? Or...
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Okay. What is the greatest sitcom ever made?
This is really easy for me, but it's a hands down, there's no argument. The Simpsons. I don't know if it's super okay. I hope I'm like, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but that was for me growing up. That show started the year I was born. So I missed like the first couple seasons until I was able to catch up only recently when it went on to Disney Plus. But my entire childhood, all throughout high school, even going into college, coming back home, Simpsons on Sundays. And it was just so relevant. You can't name a show that was not a reality show or a talk show that had more celebrity guests. The way that they're able to predict the future, the way that they could talk about politics and just all of it is just wonderful. And when I look at the world, I'm always categorizing people like by their Simpson character. Like I'm like, oh, well, you're a Mr. Burns, and okay, yeah, you're definitely a Mo, and I don't know what you are yet, but I'll let you know at the end of the show when I get a better vibe.
Well, actually, it's a funny story. I actually have a friend that was formerly, because she got married, called Lisa Simpson, and she was born the year after it came out, and then they said this is what we're going to call him, and then I think they said the doctor was like, "Are you sure?" Because there's this show, and he's like, "Oh, that show won't take off." and then she had like 20 plus years of every birthday. Lisa, it's your birthday.
Happy birthday, Lisa! Oh my gosh, I was so upset to find out that wasn't really Michael Jackson. I thought that was Michael Jackson. Like I thought that episode was the real Michael Jackson.
Well, I thought it's an actor. Well, I thought that he said he'd only sing. And then that's why the guy was like, "Hi, I got a different voice." And then,
it's his singing voice? I feel like it wasn't him.
I'd have to double check. And guys, chime down in the comments. But I heard like ages and ages ago that he wouldn't talk on the show or whatever. But
okay, I love that episode because I'm such a believer in like. See, The Simpsons is just it's just such a good one. And it adds, there's more complexity and depth with time. It just ages so well. So it really is timeless and I love it.
And I think that's why I like, because my favorite sitcom is Scrubs. And I think it's because they aim to do a live action Simpsons. Like that's kind of style. And I think it just translated pretty well for me. But I grew up on The Simpsons as well. It was just, over here it was 6 o'clock every day, 6 o'clock. But they only had like this two or three seasons on cycle. It's just repeats,
Oh, I will say back to Scrubs. So that came out when I was in high school, and all the girls loved it because it was kind of the antithesis of Grey's Anatomy,
Yeah.
And I like Zach Braff. I'm a huge fan, and I like Turk. I forget his name, but I like those actors. But I had the biggest crush on the jerk doctor, the one with the curly hair.
Dr. Cox.
Dr. Cox.
Yeah.
I had in high school, I had a huge crush on him, and everyone thought I was bad. They're like, excuse my language. I forget if I can cuss on here. Sorry. They thought I was crazy, but that just gives you an insight to my psyche. I'm like, that's my guy. Those two youngins that don't know what they're doing. No, I want the jaded, grumpy, it makes you laugh because he's just terrible to be around. Like, I love him. And to this day, anything he's in, I'm like, I love you, Dr. Cox.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal actor. I can't understand because of how all his monologues and his rants are so long, and I don't know how he does it. But he's amazing, and I think I watched an old show called Burn Notice, and he turned up in one or two episodes of that, and I was like, no, 100%. All right, let's move on to something more I don't know, plansy. Zombie apocalypse plan. Do you have one?
I think you're the first person to ever ask me this question. And I say that because I'm usually the one asking this question. So this is a question I ask men on the first date. Because if you don't have a zombie apocalypse plan, I really don't think that I can date you. Like that's a wrap. So it's one of my first date questions, because if you're not thinking about it and you're not taking this seriously, like this is where we end. This is where we part. There's no future. I can't reason with you if at this point, with everything we know, you don't have a doomsday prepper zombie apocalypse plan. You're a man without a plan. Get out of here. I'm not kidding. I'm so serious.
That's awesome.
So I'm really excited to be asked this question. Of course, I have a full-on plan that I actually would never share publicly because I wouldn't want everyone following me and bugging me about it. So, well, not steal it, but as much. But I will say it involves this. Like, I have a cabinet in my house for the zombie apocalypse. Like I have emergency things. I love to camp. I'm a camper. So I have a lot of solar powered stuff, right? And then food that will last a long time. I replenish it like every 3 years just to make sure it's somewhat fresh, but it's food that lasts. Really, we're talking like a week supply, but at least it's something. Fire starters, things like that. I also have a bag that's already packed with all of my precious photos. So my most precious photos and documents, I already have a bag packed under my bed. So in the zombie apocalypse, you're going to need some weaponry. So I got some of that. And then you got to get to Costco. Like you got to get to a superstore and just raid it. And then from there, my plan is to, through various ways, because of whatever, is end up on an island that I know is really safe. And if you're in Northern Australia, I would suggest to you Nudie Beach is the way to go.
No.
Like the zombies aren't going to make it there. So if you can get yourself to Nudie Beach, you might be in good shape, as long as you find a way to get food in the meantime.
Watch out for the Crocs.
Well, hopefully you're taking like a boat, a dinghy of some sort, and not swimming.
Yes.
Are there Crocs at Nudie Beach?
If it's northern Queensland, then yes, because that whole there's actually like they warn tourists like don't go on the beach at night because people have been like, oh, sit down on this log, and then the log moves, and you're like, But that's
Wait,
north.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the more
we
north,
did not get that warning.
The more north you go in Australia, the more deadly it gets. Because it's the warmer climate. You got the taipan that'll kill you in like 5 seconds. But they're more inland. Because I'm about an hour and a half from Sydney. I'm Blue Mountains. So best I get's probably a brown snake every now and again, but I'm pretty safe. At least for now.
Oh my gosh. No, they did not give us that warning. What they did say is that if we don't take the last dinghy out from Nudie Beach, which was coming at, on the other side of Fitzroy Island,
Mm,
if we don't get out, then we'll have to spend the night there and no one's going to come get us. And there's no
yeah,
cell phone service because there's just nothing. It's just you in the ocean.
yeah.
And a very tiny island. And so, but they didn't say like the crocs will get you, but it's an island like in the middle of the ocean. I
Yeah,
don't even
yeah,
know if
yeah.
that's sustainable for crocodiles. It's like a
No. Yeah,
washed up reef type of beach. Yeah. And it's not nude, by the way. I mean,
yeah,
you could be nude because there's nobody there, but it's
yeah,
not, it's called nudie after some
yeah,
man, I guess.
yeah. I've never met Mr. Nudie. Um, I don't know. I'll have to look up what it means because I've never been that far in my own country. I tend to go south where it's colder.
Yeah, I mean that it wasn't until I went there, which I'll if we have time I'll tell you about that later, but it wasn't until I went there that I realized it's about the same size as the United States. And in terms of like land and terrain and
Mm,
people don't understand, like we have these areas like in the Northwest, like Minnesota, they get really bad snowstorms. I
yeah,
mean, really bad. I think a lot of the impressions from traveling around the globe, the impression of the US is like California and New York, maybe
yeah,
Florida, and television. And it's like,
yeah,
we have some really crazy like snow. We have the
yeah,
hottest place on the planet, Death Valley. We got and we have our own share of deadly,
yeah,
beastly animals.
yeah,
So I feel you. Like it's hard to get everywhere. It's
yeah,
not easy.
yeah. I get more freaked out by all your bear the videos from bears just walking through neighborhoods. I'm going like, no, I couldn't do a bear. I can handle a snake, but I can't a bear. Like it's just like that big.
You and me both. I have not seen a bear in the wild, but I've seen their evidence, right? So a big pile of their poo where it's
Yeah,
a full apple in the poo. And you're like, this guy literally shoved a whole apple down his throat
yeah,
and digested it.
yeah,
And his poo is like, 3 feet tall. And
yeah,
then you have like they rip things. They're kind of like raccoons, like they're just
yeah,
looking for food
yeah,
where I'm from in California, and they do end up in backyards
yeah,
sometimes, but I'm my friends have made fun of me for how afraid I am. I'm not afraid of snakes, but I'm afraid of bears. Like it's
yeah,
a very real fear. But luckily in California, we don't have where I'm from in SoCal, it's mostly brown bears. They're more like raccoons.
yeah,
The grizzlies are the ones
yeah,
the grizzlies and the black bears and the polar bears, which we don't have.
yeah, yeah,
Those are the ones you want to avoid. But
yeah,
it's that movie Grizzly Man,
yeah,
it traumatized me. This was back in the day where the internet was not, how do we say, regulated. And so when I'm like 12, 13 years old and you have some sick, twisted freak on the regular internet, releasing
yeah,
videos, one of the videos that got released was when Grizzly Man passed away and was eaten by the bear. And
yeah,
my idiot, 12-year-old was like, I want to know. It was awful. Like
yeah.
I had nightmares for years after that. And so I think that just I don't know. I want nothing to
No,
do.
no,
There are so
yeah,
many humans that get eaten by bears, and I
yeah,
like to camp. That's the thing. I like
yeah,
to camp,
yeah,
but I'm very much anti-bear. I
yeah,
don't want
yeah,
bears. I want them
yeah,
away. I want the bear spray. Yeah,
yeah,
no, I feel you. That
yeah,
is scary. But we do have some pretty deadly snakes as well. Like our snakes
yeah,
are not to be messed with.
yeah. I don't think any snakes to be messed with, really. Uh,
Well, garden snakes, they're cute.
yeah,
They're
I've
not gonna do
actually.
anything to you.
This is actually a story I tell all our American guests, because I've got a garden outside where I have dinner, and a couple of years ago, like a kookaburra landed in the garden and picked up a snake like 3 times or 4 times its body length and flew off with it. Just a little kookaburra. So our nature's
Hungry.
very hungry. They're known to do that. All right, let's wrap these icebreakers up with one of my favorite questions. Okay, so now the reason why we say it's Elon Musk is because we just assume that he'd be the one crazy enough to invent time travel. So he calls you up and offers you to test drive his new electric time machine. What do you do? Where do you go?
Well, I feel like you're not going to like my answer. I don't believe in doing time travel. Like we already are doing time travel because we live on multiple planes. So
Yeah.
I don't want to mess up the ecosystem. Like I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you for a fact I wouldn't do it because when I was in Las Vegas in 2018, I was in Las Vegas. I get a notification on my phone. I had ordered an Uber in Las Vegas. And I get a notification from the Uber and it goes, ding, ding, ding. You have been selected. I've had an Uber account basically since it started because of my job. So I get these little updates sometimes and it was like, ding, ding, ding. You have been selected for our driverless vehicle Uber. Would you like to accept? And I turned at my girlfriend. We had a few cocktails. It's Vegas. And I was like, you want to do this? You want to roll in it? And then she went down this, her husband's an attorney and deals with liability stuff. So she went down this whole rabbit hole of if it crashes and we accept, and she went this whole rabbit hole. And I was like, you know what? Someone else can be the test dummy, the literal test dummy on this vehicle. Like I need to see like a few people do it. I don't like to be the first. David Bowie said never be the first. And I am going to go to the grave with that. You can jump off the cliff. I'll watch to see how it works for you. And then after some beta testing, I will participate. So I will say that like I wouldn't do that. Also, I think time travel has got to be bad for your skin. I've thought about this a lot, right? Because time travel is so big in like so many movies. And I'm like, that's bad for your skin. There's got to be some dehydration happening and it's probably aging you. Yeah. Umbrella Academy, like I just no, I'm going to skip the time travel, but let's assume that it's the most ideal situation and all of my fears of time travel are fine. Yeah. This is going to sound really dark. Okay? Hope you're ready for it.
Hit me.
I wish I could go back to the night that my parents met and tell them to not.
Wow.
Like I wish I could tell them this is a really big mistake. Just don't. Like just don't. They get very offended when I say this to them. And I'm like, I never asked to be here. I'm trying to make the most of my life, right? But I never like this place is kind of ghetto, which is why so many of us escape with like video games and TV and alcohol and drugs and everything else. Like this reality is a little much for me. I'm too sensitive and I'm just like, I really didn't ask to be here. But these two people got drunk on Super Bowl night, didn't use protection, did a shotgun wedding, and look at us now. And they get so offended. They're like, how could you say that? You're the greatest thing. And I'm like, a condom could have prevented all of this, you guys. So that's what I feel like I would have done. Like, don't forget your condom.
Just
but then that becomes a meta moment.
Yeah, a random stranger.
Go ahead.
Hey. So you'd intentionally Marty McFly.
It's so dark. I'm so sorry. I know. It's like it's so dark. But again, you have to keep in mind, like I'm just anti-time travel. I believe we are where we need to be, and there's another version of ourselves on some other field somewhere. So you just gotta go with it and hope that your other avatars floating out there are a little bit happier than you.
So you wouldn't go forward. So you wouldn't go forward and then back. You wouldn't even go forward, get some lotto numbers or something, or.
I am like, so, okay. I didn't think about going forward. You're right. Again, time travel. I've really thought about this. I've deep dived into this with like some children. Actually, I had a child ask me this recently. And I went into why I think time travel. He was terrified. He's like, oh my God, I want nothing to do with this time travel thing. I think my concern with going back and forth is that, I think of the butterfly effect. Yeah. The smallest change can create beauty or chaos. And so all we can really do is try to do our best in the moment with what we have. The moment we try to manipulate our story to have instant, easy success, that's when we make really big mistakes. I believe that wholeheartedly. I think we see that in the real world every day where people try to do shortcuts, like, I hate to say it, right? This Ozempic train that a lot of people are on right now, just like shortcut, fast, easy.
Yeah.
I already know what's on the other side of that, and it's not going to be pretty. It's my thought. I'm not a doctor, but that's just my thought. There's no fast, easy. And so with time travel, I'm very hesitant because I'm like, it's too fast, too easy. Something's got to give. Yeah. Circuit's going to break somewhere, and I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. And as a wise man once said from Scrubs, Dr. Bob Kelso said, "Nothing worth having comes easy." So that's good.
He's part of the reason why I moved to Alabama. I blame him for that mistake of mine because there was this episode. My favorite episode was My Tuscaloosa Heart, and it's about this woman he was in love with. Yeah. So I was like, and I moved to Tuscaloosa.
There you go. The Tuscaloosa Heart. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I could talk about Scrubs forever.
I love it. I'm so glad. I didn't realize that was your favorite show, so I'm glad that we can bond upon that.
Just not season 9. Just saying. I didn't like it.
We all have that.
I know. Because that season 8 finale was just that whole ending. It was just like, end it there, please. And then like all they saw was dollar signs.
I love what Jerry Seinfeld said about his show Seinfeld, which was everyone was so upset that we ended it when we did. But we didn't want to be the show that didn't know when to end it. Yeah. And so part of, ending, and I will say this with writing my book, the hardest damn chapter was the last chapter. Yeah. And when you're writing a TV show, you can have an idea of what the last chapter will be. Like we saw that with Breaking Bad. We saw, we see it a little bit with Walking Dead. But like you can have an idea of what you think the final season will be. But if it gets way more popular than you expected, like Breaking Bad, I think those Breaking Bad folks, they were like 1 season, 1 and done, maybe 2. And then it kind of kept going on and on. And they're like, wait, now we have to go back on everything all the foundation related. Dexter was another one. It was like, they had an idea of what the last season would be, but then the show was just so popular. Like you said, they see dollar signs and they keep it going and they keep reviving it. Grey's Anatomy is on its like 8th, like let it go. I mean, just let it go, please. Yeah. When they all got COVID, I was like, we're already living it. And now you're making us relive it. Like what? Yeah. Let it like just there at some point you must pull the plug just to be humane. It's the dignified thing to do. Let it go. And so part of that though is knowing where to cut it off. And it's so hard when you write a book and you're doing the final chapter because my life isn't over. It's like, how do you end? It was so those last paragraphs, those last sentences, and it's so corny because you're trying to end on like a positive note. Like I would love to have just ended like Soprano style where everyone's like, did my last page not get printed?
Got it up mid-sentence.
Like that's what I want to do. Like, yes, because at a certain point you just go, it's over. We are out. It's done. Like I don't want to try to package this in a way where the endings suck. Just accept it. Stop expecting it to be like, but just end it. Just let it go.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's gold. Well, you have passed the icebreakers. Fantastic answers.
This podcast is brought to you by Martin Kearns and the Valor of Valhalla series. In the battle between 2 ancient evils, can one naive young man become the last hope against powerful creatures of legend? Beneath the Veil is the gripping first book in the Valor of Valhalla dark urban fantasy series. If you like reluctant heroes, infernal myths, and bloody epic clashes, then you'll love Martin Kearns' formidable foray into the unknown. So head on over to readkearns.com and grab yourself a copy of Beneath the Veil today.
Well, let's dive into everything about you. Obviously, you're on a podcast now. And then I find out you have a podcast. So why don't we find out a little bit about your podcast? What's it about? How to get started?
Well, it actually started in my living room. I was having a conversation with a friend from Norway, and she was staying with me during the pandemic because of some complications with her visa. And so we were having some type of conversation, probably about the pandemic. I don't remember exactly what it was. And she goes, "We need to record this conversation. Like, this is a good conversation. We need to put it on a podcast." And I'm like, I don't know how to podcast. Like, how do you do that? Like, it's just overwhelming. I don't need to know. And then she basically coerced me into starting this channel. And it started off in season 1 as really just random conversations, because if you can't tell, I love to talk. And so I love to make people laugh. So everywhere I go, I just make friends. I truly live the mantra of strangers are just friends I haven't met yet. And so if you don't die, I'm so sorry. He was interrupting me and I didn't appreciate it. But like, there was an actual fly, not like a ghost. I wasn't talking. I'm not that crazy. Okay. I may or may not have herpes, but I'm not delusional yet. So we had these conversations, and what I really wanted to do was just talk to everyday people about their extraordinary lives, right? Ordinary people, extraordinary lives. And where it has now since transitioned and transformed is that I've, really built this philosophy, which I call the SEFPh philosophy. And it's this idea of creating success on a spiritual, emotional, financial, and physical realm. So SEFPh, SEFPh. And this comes out of, really why I decided to write my book and where I was that I had found, I was by any metrics, I am by any metric, like successful, right? But I think that really people just focus on the finance when they say that. They're like looking at what you've done in your career and what you've created. And I've been very blessed in my career that I found what I love to do and I'm good at it. And it was at a time where it wasn't very popular. So it's a niche and all of these things that I couldn't have controlled. Like, I couldn't have controlled that Red Bull became what it did. I can't control that I lived in that I grew up in Southern California. Like, I just did, right? And so because of that, I had access to, big brands and big events and all of that. And so, but I found myself, which I talk about in my book, in the hospital, one of the best hospitals in the world. It's called Cedars-Sinai, quite literally one of the best hospitals in the world. And I'm alone. And I'm lying in my own blood. And I'm just like, all the money in the world right now could not fix this. I'm alone. I'm in pain. I feel like I'm dying. I could be dying. And who gives a what's in my bank account?
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was overwhelmed with like despair because I've always wanted a partner. I love my career. I'm proud to be a boss, whatever you want to call it, female anthem empowerment, blah, blah, blah. My butt just wants to be barefoot and pregnant in my husband's house. Like, I didn't ask to be this boss babe. I just didn't have a choice, you guys. Someone had to feed me and I was alone, right? And so I started writing my book from the bed. And my recovery was really rough. I had several surgeries. It's a whole mess that would take way too long to explain, but I explain it in my book. And I just came out of recovery and physical therapy and medical leave with a newfound desire of like, I don't want my life to just be focused on one type of success. I want it all. And it's because I have, I know very successful people. I know wealthy people who are spiritually bankrupt. I know CFOs who are executives whose children don't speak to them, executives whose children have committed suicide. What good is all that financial success if you are emotionally corrupt or bankrupt or flawed or have no relationship because you did everything you could to build a successful career? No. I want to start having real conversations about what success looks like from a spiritual level. Like, do you feel good? Because I'm going to tell you, at the end of the road, what you have in your bank account doesn't matter. A little bit to your family because you don't want to leave them high and dry, but like not that much, right? Like you know, it really doesn't matter as you're facing your mortality and you're looking down at your feet in your deathbed. That's not what you're going to be sticking to. And the question is, who do you want surrounded by you in those times? And what are you doing to put equity into that bank? Your family, your friends, your network. What are you doing to give to others? What are you doing to help them on their journey? And so that's kind of what I'm trying to work on now, is like less focus. Yes, I love business and I love winning and I love campaigns and I love numbers and metrics and I love all that stuff, but it can't be the end all be all. We have to accept that we are human beings with spirits and souls and emotions and desires. And I also want to prove to people that, or show and inspire people that you can create the life you want. You don't have to feel stuck in whatever your situation is, whatever that might be. And for me, it's my marital status, right? Like I'm single and I want to be married. This is the theme of my life. It always comes back to like, I want a husband, right? Yeah. And I'm unapologetic about that because I think that some people would look at me and just assume that it's my choice, or that it's like, I chose this singlehood businesswoman on the go, traveling around the world life. It's like, yes, I did, but I wasn't trying to be a Samantha. I was trying to be a Charlotte, man. Yeah. Like I really was. I took a couple turns and I'm just too good at business. I don't know what to say. So that's what Eavesdrop with Ella is about. I talk to people about my SEFph philosophy, and I just ask them like, how did you build your success? You know, and where do you think that you're not as successful as you could be? And the answers are always really beautiful and surprising, because you'll have people say like, yeah, I'm financially successful, but I have no spiritual life. Yeah. You know, and vice versa. People who feel very strong in their spirituality and got $13 in their bank account. So I think it's just about creating a balance and making sure that whatever area of success that we're having, it's not coming at the detriment of another area of our life.
Yeah, no, I resonate a lot with what you said there, especially like look, I'm 40 in 20 days. It's my 40th this year, and I'm the last male in my bloodline to carry on the name, like that sort of thing. I got that pressure there, but all I attract is crazies. It's just that, you know, I want that for myself too, but it's like it's really, really hard navigating and I'm not saying all women are crazy. It's just, it seems to be all the ones that I meet currently are crazy. And it's just hard wanting that, but not knowing how to, you know, go about it and all that stuff. But
yeah, I've been going back and forth about making my third season of my podcast about dating, because I'm an amazing dating coach. Those who can't do teach. So can't do it for myself, but I'm really good at psychoanalyzing people, even though I have no therapist background at all. But I think because my parents were both single parents when they were raising me. Yeah. So just a little bit about why I'm a little messed up. If you're like, what is this girl? Where is she coming from? When I was 7 years old, my parents got married, right? So like they got like, it was like a one night stand. They were broken up. They ran into each other at a Super Bowl party, and then, you know, had unprotected sex. And then my mom like was pregnant, and then my dad was like, well, I guess we got to get married. And so it was a shotgun wedding, whatever. 7 years later, I'm 7 years old. My mom was like, this whole being a mom and wife thing is just not for me. Like, I need to go be I need to be free. I need to travel the world. I need to like sleep around. And I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So she left my dad, my brother, and me. And my brother is 2 years younger than I am. And she left for like, she was in and out for like 5 years, which the ages 7 to 12, if you have a child, you should be around for those years. They're kind of important. But, you know, she didn't have anyone to tell her that, I guess. So what that did was I like watched my dad be single and try to date and try to cure his heartache of like being dumped in like such a weird way. We went on a vacation and we came back and she was just gone and left a note. Like it was like, ugh. I know. It's so sad. It's like, it's sad. And I feel bad because she has so much shame and guilt about it that I wish she would let go of so I could tell this story without her feeling like I'm attacking her. Like back to what we were saying, the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
So that's my story. I didn't ask for it. Like she's the one who did it. But I watched my dad date these women and he was so inappropriate. Like I love my father. We're very close, but the boundaries were not there. So he depending on the day, I was almost like his confidant, his wife, his sister, his friend, because I'm this female energy in a household where he just has all these pressures and everything. And I was also wise and I asked a lot of questions. And so we talked a lot about his dating life. He would talk about his escapades and he would talk about women like, oh, she slept with me so fast. I hope like you can't be like that. Like obviously I'm never going to I've never respect her. She slept with me so fast. I mean, so I grew up hearing these types of things and I feel like that's why I didn't date. I didn't have sex till I was 23 because I was like, I see what's on the other side of this. I know what happens. Like, again, the kids jumping off the cliff, like I'll watch you and I'll see how that works out. And then I will analyze and decide my approach. Yeah. Trial and error is just not what I want to do with my life. So I was like, I'll just watch how all these other people navigate relationships. And I love talking about relationships and sex and all of those kind of things. And I think that we're just not honest with ourselves a lot of the time. We're not honest with why do we pick this type of person? We're not honest with the fact that our childhood traumas, mine being abandonment, the abandonment not only of my mother, but the abandonment of every single woman that came into my dad's life that would just suddenly disappear when they would break up. And like that abandonment of like, no, she can't leave. Like she promised she was going to do my hair for the dance or whatever it is. Yeah. So I have a fear of abandonment, which means that that's what shows up in my dating life. Like I'm aware of that. I haven't cracked the code of how to fix it, but I've definitely said like, okay, but we're not honest with ourselves about how our past affects where we show up. And it sucks. It's very Freudian, but our relationships with our parents directly translate into our romantic relationships. And it's a truth that we often don't want to accept. And sometimes we lie to ourselves about our parents, our relationships with our parents, because we don't want to have the ugly story. I used to lie about my story all the time and be like, my mom and I are best friends. Well, we're best friends because she wasn't really my mom. So when she came back, I was like, you're kind of like a sister to me. I don't really know you like my mom, but you could be my friend. You can buy me things. Yeah. You're like a rich best friend. That's how I treated my mom growing up. Yeah. Right. So for a while, I would lie unintentionally about our relationship. Like, yeah, she's my best friend. And it's like, well, no, there's trauma there. There's trauma there that hasn't been healed. And so I think that I wish we were more open about our desire for a partner, because I feel like we're not allowed to admit that we want someone, even though obviously like we all want companionship. And if you don't want companionship, why are you going out and getting laid? Like, unless you're like fully asexual and abstinent, you're trying to get some type of form of companionship. That's what I wish. I wanted. I've thought about that. So then I could you can come on my podcast and we'll talk about your taste in women. Because when you tell me that you like crazy, the common factor is you. Like you're the problem.
No. I get that a lot. No, but look, these are women that tend to approach. No, like, oh, come on, because like my whole dating story it's just utter craziness. There's way too much to unpack. We might be talking for hours, but I'd be happy to come on. Yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
I know. I'm with you. But I think I'm more like for a long time I wouldn't admit to wanting a partner, because I was so afraid that it would come off as desperate.
Let's save the dating for another time. And let's talk about your book. I mean, that's why you came on, right? Give us an overview. It's obviously an autobiography kind of thing.
It's a business memoir. It's a mix between it's not a full autobiography. Everything in the book. So like what I just said about my mom, like that part's not in the book because
Yeah.
it's not relevant to my
Yeah.
career, right? So everything within my background that is talked about in the book is directly correlated to my career. I wrote it to answer the questions that I get often, which are, what do you do for work? Because it's really hard to explain. I feel like Chandler Bing in a way where it's like, I have a job and I do things, but like, I don't know how to explain it all the time to people who aren't in it. And so it really just gives an overview of like what I've been doing in my career. And then two, which is another question, because when I do start to tell people like, oh, I'm a, marketing executive in the alcohol industry, they're like, how did you do that? How did you get that? It's not a class at school. It's not a major at university. And so I wrote that book really to answer those two questions. And then the third question, which I get often, which is like, weren't you in the hospital or weren't you on medical leave or didn't you have like some type of whatever? And so I for the first time talk publicly, if you will, about the health battles that I've had my entire life that have affected my career, how I show up in the world, my dating life, and so forth. And then I talk about, I didn't want this to be the opening chapter, but the publisher did this, the editors and publisher did this, but the book opens with me talking about the duality of celebrating the fact that I designed this gin brand and did a really great campaign. And then I come home, so to speak. I wasn't living with him, but come back home and, I have an alcoholic boyfriend. And while like I'm excited about the work I do and I'm proud about the work I do, this guy has a problem. And so here I am spending all day trying to convince people to drink my products. And then I'm going home trying to convince someone to stop drinking. And so the book talks about some of the implications from a societal standpoint, a cultural standpoint. It's very specific to American culture, but I think it's universally resonant, going back to this idea of like, why do we drink so much? Is it the marketing? Is it escapism? A combination of both? And what are some of the trajectories I see in drinking that are very concerning to me, as I see a lot of laws, specifically in America, changing to accommodate the access of alcohol at an accelerated rate. We are seeing women succumb to alcohol-related deaths in America at the age of like 40, in their 40s, for the first time ever, in droves. And it's because of the post-pandemic surge in drinking. So one of the shocks for me was that when the pandemic happened and business shut down, we just expected business to stop. I mean, Coachella got canceled. That was all my alcohol sales. That was my account. Staples Center, which was my account at the time, they were no longer selling because they didn't have any more basketball games with the Lakers and even Kobe Bryant passing away, all of that. It was just like shutdown after shutdown. And so with all these shutdowns, I was like, oh, my numbers are going to plummet. I'm losing millions in revenue for my clients. And then they weren't plummeting. People were going to the stores and buying alcohol instead. And so we actually had record-breaking numbers in sales. Not in revenue, because as you know, buying a bottle at a store versus buying a drink at a restaurant, it's a different profit. So profits, we were about even and a little lower than the year, but like people are drinking more than ever. And there's this misconception that people aren't drinking or people are going sober curious. And I'm like, look, I might be biased, right? But like, I'm telling you right now, people are drinking more than ever. And I want to have some more conversations about that, not as some sober coach who's like, you need to get sober. You're a drunk. You're an alcoholic. You're a hot mess. Like I drink half the book. I was like drinking at a bar when I wrote it. But I think we need to start having conversations with ourselves, with our loved ones, about why it is we keep going for that next drink. So that's what High Tolerance is about. And it has a little bit of humor, sort of, if you like my sense of humor. I tried to just be different. I didn't like all the books on the market make us sound like evil people. Like we want people to die and we want people to get cancer and we want people to like get behind the vehicle and plow into a family. You know, like, no, we're not evil. We're, you know who I think is evil? The people who like promote their products to children when they're detrimental for their health. Like, at least I don't promote products to children. Can you say that, Pepsi? Okay, thank you.
That's it. I think it was just the other day. I was at a service station and this car pulled up and this overweight little kid walked out, got in, got a giant bottle of Coke, and, you know, it's just like, come on. Like,
yeah. It's like, okay. And I mean, I could go on a whole tangent there and then I really will get canceled. I have a lot to say on that. I'm like, well, at least we admit that our product is like not healthy and you should do it in moderation and be careful. Like, we're not I don't do product drops at elementary schools. So I think that, you know, there just could be more conversations around it. And I do say, like, it doesn't matter who you are, you have a relationship with alcohol. It's that pervasive. Like, you have a relationship. Even in choosing to abstain, you have some type of relationship with alcohol. And even if you're not, I don't want to call anyone an alcoholic. I'm not a psychologist. That's not my place. That's not my space. But I wanted to offer just a little bit more of like the inside scoop of the business to give a better perspective of, oh, I'm being marketed here and here and here and here. And like maybe just a little bit more awareness in our consumer shopper habits.
See, I'm one of those weird people that don't drink. I just never, I think I had a drink on my 18th and I never kind of did it anymore. I played it. I was always designated driver. I think that probably played into it as well. I used to play in bands, so I, you know, did a lot of tour up and down the east coast of Australia, and it was I was around alcohol all the time. I think I enjoyed watching tipsy people instead of getting tipsy myself.
It's a control thing for sure. I would say I was the same way. I talk about that in the book as well. Like, a lot of us in the end, I would say it's hard to be an alcoholic in the alcohol industry because, like, I had bartenders at my offices, like full-time bartenders, right? Like, the same way that Nike, you go to a Nike headquarters, what are you going to see? You're going to see a bunch of shoes on display. Well, at our places, you're going to see a bunch of booze on display, right? And so, and then you have a big expense account and you have an Uber account. And so you have a lot of access and you're getting invites to various events. So if you have an alcoholic tendency, it's going to show up quickly because you're going to have a lot harder of a time saying no when it's like always around. Right. And so alcoholics show up pretty quickly in our space where it's like, you got to sit down and say, hey, you can't be like, there are definitely more alcoholic lawyers and police officers than in my industry, for sure. Like, they're just, you know, they can hide it better. I think that, and then that's not to say that we're all like, again, sober, but a lot of people I work with, like, don't drink at all. I think it's like, it's kind of one of those weird, I would say same thing with bartenders, right? Like, you have to be able to say no. Like, you got to be able to like, put the bottle down and not drink it.
And probably the same with drug dealers too. You don't, what do they say? Don't sample your own product, or don't
get high off your own supply. I put that in my book and my editor told me to take it out because they said that was inappropriate. And I was like, I am a drug dealer. They were like, don't call yourself a drug dealer. I was like, I am.
No, you're a legal
$1 billion in sales of alcohol. Just because it's legal, it's still a drug.
Yeah. You can say the same about pharmacists.
Yes, seriously. But my they were like, please don't call yourself a drug dealer. And I was like, I'm leaving it.
Like, can I imply
I'm proud of this. Yeah. Ella. So I met our latest guest is a drug dealer who has herpes. Tell us more about yourself and what you bring to our audience.
Oh, that's funny. No, I think it's perfect for our audience. We've had a lot of people on that, like, just wide range. I think we had this lady on once, and I'm not calling you a conspiracy theorist or anything, but she got really into like the UFOs and the aliens are here and they're controlling, you know, this and that. And it was like, I thought I thought she was a little crazy to begin with, but then she just went all in, and we just sat there respectfully going, "Oh yeah, cool." So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
No, I am. I know I'm out there. I know I'm out there.
No,
Everybody's
I
like,
love
we know
it.
why you're single, honey. The reasons why you're single are quite apparent. I get it, but I have to believe that if God was crazy enough to create, because I came out like this, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is just how I came out. If he was crazy enough to make one of me, I have to think he has to. There's a lid for every pot, man.
Yeah.
Like I have to believe that there's somebody out there who's like, oh, who gets it. But it's hard being multifaceted. I'm like a Rubik's Cube. Most people touch a Rubik's Cube and then put it back down because they're bored because it's too complex and they can't figure it out. But there are also a lot of people who like dedicate their lives to figuring out Rubik's Cubes and go to competitions and like do it really fast. And so if there are people out there who will love a Rubik's Cube, okay, there's someone out there who will love you. Okay.
Yes.
Like we're okay. Most people are dice and I'm a Rubik's Cube and that's difficult. I'm different. I know it.
Yeah.
But you know, there has to be someone out there who can put up with
I'm
it.
the same. I'm the crazy one. I weird a lot of people out. But I think if I had found a Rubik's Cube, I'd probably just paint the sides, It's just repaint it.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for a way to, I even did that in school. I figured out the pattern to the multiple choice questions. And then we had this thing called the maths competition. It's a big maths competition, like statewide or something. And I came second in my school. And it took me 20 minutes to do the test. And I was like, you have an hour and a half to do this test. And I was just like, and I figured out the pattern almost to a T.
You cracked the code.
I cracked the code, and I am a school dropout. I got out as quick as I could. But not before I did that accomplishment. And it was like I'd always get between 70 and 95% all the time, every time. Just figure out a pattern. Rain Man.
Yeah. And I had this habit. I could like read my professors. It was fun for me. I'm like, I got really good grades, but it wasn't because I was the smartest kid. I just knew how to I figured out what made every professor and teacher I had tick. You got to find out. This is why I'm great at sales, right? You just got to find out what makes the other person, what drives their fire, what their passions are, all of that. And then once I can find that out, that's why social media and meta is scary, because they know all of they know your deepest desires, right? Like if you watch The Social Network on Netflix, like that's data that people like me are out there buying to better know what you like and what you want. So you'll buy more of our stuff. But I've always been that way. I've always been into the psychographics of like, what makes this person tick? What gets them out of bed in the morning? And how can I appeal to that to get this B to become an A?
Yeah. And I'm really easy to analyze because you can just look at my wall behind me, That's just some people wear it on their sleeves or their shirts.
I like it. Yeah, I wore my Darth Vader shirt for you.
Awesome.
It sucks that you can't really see it.
I can. Yeah.
I had this epiphany like when I was a teenager. I was like, you know what would make the dark side darker? If Darth Vader married me. Like, I think that I should be Mrs. Darth Vader. Actually, to clarify, I would be Mrs. Ella Vader. And I would want to be queen of the dark side. And so I feel like I started liking Darth Vader before it was cool, but apparently he's always had a little bit of a cult following for a minute. Plus my favorite color is black, so that really helps. But
your name would be a pun though, and I love that. Elevator.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Elevator.
I don't have a elevator. Yeah, you can go up and down.
Yeah.
My name is Elevator. Ride me all night long.
Oh, there'll be lots of ups and downs. that's funny. Yeah, I've always loved James L. Jones though, because he's both evil and both good because he was Darth Vader and Mufasa.
I know, and I was so glad that they picked his voice again to do the live Lion King for that very reason. His voice is so special. It's so special. And now with AI, there's probably enough of his voice on recording that we really could replicate it for the rest of time should we decide to. I would put money that there's some type of plan in place like for his legacy or whatever to continue using his voice long after he leaves, but which hopefully won't be for a while. He will always be the guy from Sandlot to me.
Yes!
Like the blind man.
That was the show. Look, I can't. Like, there's two sports that I absolutely love but would never be able to play, and I love every single movie. It's baseball and hockey, ice hockey. I grew up with Mighty Ducks, but Sandlot was just on repeat, wearing the VHS out. I love that movie so much. I love it.
Me too. Yeah. I love Sandlot. And I always hated baseball. I've worked with a couple baseball teams, and I've worked with several teams. I've worked with over 40 pro teams around the I shouldn't say around the world, like one Manchester United, the rest were all in the US. But the no Australian teams, unfortunately. But the sport, I've worked with 3 baseball teams. God love them, good people, so fun. But man, going to those games was like pain for me. And if like a football, like what we call football, like American football, all day long, I'm in. I'll go visit you. I'll go say hi. I can't wait. Baseball, I'm like, do I have to go? They got us a suite. But do I have to be there? Will they notice if I'm not there? I'm like, oh, baseball. But what I realized, and is this not a metaphor for life? This past spring, I started learning more about baseball, like with the last World Series, which I don't know why it's called World Series when it's only played in one country, but whatever. So we have this World Series, and then like I started learning more about it. It's a very complicated game, much more complicated than American football by far. But once I understand it now, like it's a lot more fun. Like I'm like, oh, okay. Like this makes sense. Cause I still struggle with knowing the difference between a ball and a strike. I'm like, that looked like a ball. And then it's a strike. That looked like a strike and it's a ball. I'm like, what? Like how is this a real sport? Are we just making up rules along the way? Like, I don't understand. So like the screens help a lot. I love hockey too. I grew up. So you talk about Mighty Ducks. I'm from Orange County, California. Like people don't appreciate like how powerful Disney is in Anaheim, California, the birthplace of Disneyland and Disney. But we drank the Mighty Ducks Kool-Aid, man. And then we made a whole real pro team called the Anaheim Ducks. Like we did that, go Orange County. And then we also have the Angels, which were from Angels in the Outfield, another Disney movie. Like our sports teams are literally from Disney movie. That's the power of Disney in Orange County, where I'm from. And I get so angry that they changed their names for marketing purposes to the Los Angeles Angels, because it's like, no, they're from Orange. We are not LA. Like we are not LA. This, like the same way, you know, Sydney does not represent all of like, it's just whenever there's a major city, I get it. You want to cling on to that. It's fine.
But it is the most recognizable city. There's a reason at the end of Independence Day they showed all the capitals around the world, and then they showed Sydney, which is not our capital. Because if they showed our capital, everyone would be like, "What's that?"
Oh my gosh. So I went on my honeymoon by myself. I almost got married once, and I found out he wasn't who I thought he was going to be. So I decided to cash in the honeymoon trip, which was like island hopping around Hawaii. I was like, I don't want to go to Hawaii because there's going to be a bunch of brides and like couples, and that's going to be depressing. So I was like, I'm going to go to Australia. I go to the Sydney Opera House. A couple friends like happened to be there. They were like vacationing at the same time, whatever. So it kind of worked out. So I was like alone, but not. And we got a sailboat and we sailed around the Sydney Harbor. And I'm thinking, I will not like, I'm here. Didn't realize it was a wedding destination for like every effing bride
Wow.
from Asia and Australia. Just dozens of weddings, like all over. It was a Saturday afternoon in November. And I was just that belligerent a-hole of American. I'm drunk, I'm heartbroken, hadn't processed my pain, hadn't processed my trauma. And I'm just belligerently yelling, love is a lie. Hope you got a prenup. Like I was, because I'm on my honeymoon. I'm on my honeymoon. Okay. Like if you've ever been on your honeymoon by yourself, you can judge me. If you haven't done that, then maybe like take a seat, but not proud of it. But if there is anybody out there who got married in November 2015 and found themselves at the Sydney Opera House taking photos and got berated by some belligerent American on a sailboat, I do wholeheartedly apologize and I send you well wishes. You're probably divorced, statistically speaking, because that was almost 10 years ago, but I hope you got a prenup.
Love stinks. Yeah. That's all I can think
No, it doesn't. It's a beautiful love. It's a mighty splendid thing. I still have faith. I have faith. I just need a Darth Vader. That's all. I need like a gangster. A gangster with a good heart. Is that so hard?
Apparently so. There's no gangsters in Australia, but there's plenty of bogans. I'll tell you that.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
I just don't know. I can't stand bogans. I live 20 minutes from a river and it floods like almost yearly. And it's whenever water goes over a bridge, all the bogans just run down to look at it. And I got to see it in real time once when I was over the mountains and it was a flash flood where it just rains really heavy and all the roads flooded. And I just saw people coming from houses, bogans running everywhere going, what? That's a real thing. I guarantee.
I believe it. People, especially now with Instagram, they just want to
get the photo.
People are very looky-loos, rubbernecks, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you want to say? We've been going a while. I just realized. Anything else you want to?
So
no. Trust me. The record is 2 hours. And like I said, like if Ryan was here, it'd probably be going for 4 hours. You know. Is there anything else you want to say about your book? You know.
No, but I will say on the note of Brian's situation with his amputation, which, okay, so I love me a man that can't run away from me. Like, you're missing a limb. That's so hot. Hi. Like, I'm all about the prosthetic life. I wish I was kidding, but I've dated multiple amputees. So I will say that in life, and this is what the purpose, like my mission in writing the book was, stuff happens. Stuff like, I mean, it does. We all get dealt really painful cards. I certainly have. And I'm not alone in it. Where I find purpose in my pain is that I'm able to relate to other people's pain. I can really go down to the depths with them, like where they're at, because I somehow am sensitive enough to kind of anticipate what they might be feeling in those moments. And there are so many times where it's like, it's so isolating when you're going through something that it feels like nobody else is going through it, and you're mourning the loss and the betrayal of your body specifically. But whatever your circumstance might be, whether it's a financial setback, a physical setback, a health setback, a mental setback, a relationship that you've lost, whatever it is your job to find purpose in that pain, and you have to pay it forward. And when I say pay it forward, not the way that I did as a sloppy mess at Sydney, right? Repurposing my pain and putting my pain on the others. No. When you find yourself heartbroken because you lost a love, go find someone and help them find love. When you find
Wow.
yourself feeling like you're broke and you don't have the job you want and you don't have the raise that you deserve and you're not making enough money, go donate money to someone who really needs it. You feel like you are missing something in life. You feel like you are alone. Go take that pain, turn it into purpose, and help someone else. That's what we all need to be doing. And when we start talking about our pain, we realize we're not as alone as we think. Like, I can imagine that having your leg amputated, again, I understand, like, there's so much isolation in that, because what does everyone say when we have a kid? Oh, I hope they have 10 fingers, 10 toes, right? Like, that's what we say when people have, like, it's just, oh, we really take a lot for granted. And so what you need to realize is, however bad your pain is, however bad your situation is, you have something that you woke up with this morning that other people are somewhere in the world begging to have, praying that they can have. You have something, whether it's an internet connection, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's the ability to breathe without a machine, whether it's the ability to see, the ability to speak perfect English. You know, people are like trying so hard to learn how to speak a language that you know right now. So take your pain, turn it into purpose, keep a heart of gratitude. That's the way you pursue, and keep going. I didn't ask to be here. I don't want to be on this ghetto planet, but I'm going to try to do the most I can while I'm here, since like I'm stuck in this situation, in this flesh prison of a body, because that's how I see my body. And it is isolating when you have health issues. But the reason why I wrote my book was because if somebody else finds themselves in a hospital bed wondering what the heck is the meaning of life, like, I hope that they can see that there is an ability to find humor and joy even in very deep, difficult pain. And that humor and joy should not be coming from alcohol, by the way.
Yes. Couldn't have said it better myself. Probably couldn't have said it at all. Well, where can people buy your book?
Really, just about, I mean, Amazon is the easiest one, I would say. Most people have Amazon. It's available globally. It's available really online. You could just Google High Tolerance by Ella Parlor, or go to my website, ellaparlor.com, and it'll come to you within a couple of days.
Awesome. Well, before we let you go, you just want to plug yourself, your socials. You mentioned your website. Where can people find you and learn more about you?
Just my website, ellaparlor.com, is going to have everything. That's parlor, like pizza parlor, ellaparlor.com. And then I'm Ella Your Bella. So Ella Your Bella on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, because I'm your Bella. I'm here to serve. So yes. And I may or may not have herpes, and I will never admit it publicly, but I'm going to destigmatize it.
It's one of those mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of one to compare it to, but I probably shouldn't. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, the usual, all our information's in the show notes, along with Ella's. thetrueandthefictional@gmail.com. If you want to reach out, we're on Instagram, stories_podcast, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. And yeah, Ella, thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to get you back on in the future.
Thank you so very much. I hope to meet the other boys.
In 1932, the Australian Army declared war on 20,000 emus and lost. It's a part of Australian history that not many know about. Maybe that's because history is written by those who win. So if you want to hear the full story of the Great Emu War of 1932, then check out my book, Letters from the Emu War. Read letters, newspaper articles, and journal entries. With every turn of the page, you will gain a deeper understanding of the life and times of emus at war. So head on over to jabryden.com and grab a signed copy today.